Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to split my time with my colleague and good friend from Oxford. But I'll start with telling you since 2015, the Liberals have pursued a systemic agenda of dismantling Canada's judicial system and undermining the rule of law in this country. They have not only done so with their repeated ethics violations and their blatant disrespect for the Charter, but they have done so through more legitimate means, like through the acts in this Parliament. And it's thanks to Liberal bills that passed under former Justice Minister, committing crimes has become easier and more common than before. It seems that under this one, that streak will continue, given the responses we've heard in this House already, and some colorful language, of course. At every step of the way, they have placed the rights of offenders over the rights of victims and their woke, out-of-touch ideology over common sense and safety. In deterring crimes, the Liberals' Bill C-5 eliminates the mandatory minimum sentences for dangerous crimes such as robbery with a firearm, sexual assault, drug trafficking. There are others. And not only that, but it allows hardened criminals to serve their reduced sentences in the comfort of their own home, to serve while watching TV in their living room, sleeping in their own beds, and enjoying the privileges that so many who haven't committed crimes, everybody who hasn't committed crimes, enjoys. And arresting criminals, the catch and release practices now mean that it's nearly impossible to keep dangerous offenders in jail for more than a few hours. They are then released back into the world, free to commit crimes, sometimes even the same crimes, even on the same day, over and over again. The revolving door spins, cycling through a rotation of hardened, merciless lawbreakers who face no accountability. They are free to break the law over and over again, putting the public at risk and propagating the unnecessary harm onto communities, onto innocent victims, onto families, onto neighborhoods. And finally, in prosecuting criminals, after 8 years of this Liberal NDP incompetence, they have decayed our justice system and made it just a shell of its former self. It takes months to get a court date. Resources have been stretched to the limit, which makes it harder to catch criminals, and it's harder to keep them accountable. So it's no surprise that our streets are more dangerous, and the Canadians are worried that their once safe neighborhoods are now just subjects of crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. Every single day, we see new outrageous headlines about an individual who are putting communities in danger and about a system that is failing Canadians. Just last week, a 43-year-old man stabbed a total stranger with a syringe in broad daylight in downtown Toronto. This man was out on bail for previous assaults and had more than 40 convictions in his lifetime, including failure to comply with the court and failing to attend court dates. This is the middle of the day in Toronto. But thanks to these Liberal policies, we know that he'll just get bail one more time and that the cycle will continue again and again. Stories like these add up. That's what makes Canadians feel unsafe. It's not just an empirical, feeling. It's based on data and evidence. They don't just add up to broken communities, broken victims, broken families. They tell a story about the state of our country. And since 2015, gang crimes have doubled. Violent crime is up 37%. Canada's murder rate is the highest that it's ever been in 30 years since the last time we had a Liberal government in power. And nowhere is the story more out of control and more apparent than when it comes to auto theft. Too many people will wake up and they'll look out the window and they'll see the car that was sitting there in their driveway the night before is no longer there. Gone while they were sleeping, gone for their communities, gone from safe communities like mine where at one time nobody locked their front door. But since 2015, car thefts have tripled here in Canada. More than 100,000 vehicles are being stolen every year, including nearly 10,000 in Toronto alone. That means that every 6 minutes in Canada, a car is stolen. Every 6 minutes, gangs and criminals profit from the criminal activity and use it to finance even more criminal activities, like more car thefts, arms trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking. Don't listen to me. The Prime Minister actually admitted it in his own press release. It costs every Canadian who drives almost everywhere more to pay for this. It cost the insurance industry $1 billion in 2022. Everyone in the province is now paying more to drive. In Ontario, car theft claims just in the beginning of last year were up 329%. Wow. That's the first half of the year. That accounts for $700 million in losses. That means $130 more for every Ontario driver on insurance. So why is this happening? Well, let's lead us back to the dangerous catch and release policies that unleash crime and chaos in communities. Bill C-75, it allows repeat violent offenders to be released on bail within hours of arrest, who then often go and reoffend. Last year, even Mayor Stephen Del Duca, he's my mayor in Vaughan, he's probably a familiar name to many on the other side, the mayor of Vaughan wrote the Prime Minister, calling on the federal government to urgently modernize Canada's bail system to ensure that dangerous offenders are kept off our streets for committing crimes ranging from gun violence to home break-ins to auto thefts. The mayor wrote then Canada's public safety minister at the time asking about auto thefts specifically, asking that CBSA protocols are tightened for screening, for inspection, for exports leaving our country. It fell on deaf ears. There was nothing from the government's member of parliament who represents a riding in Vaughan until just last week. That letter was written in January, after the problem got so out of control that the council had to step in, demanding action for something that they've been asking for. After offenders have been convicted, don't let it stop at Bill C-75. Bill C-5 gives those convicts house arrest, even those with long, storied histories of stealing multiple cars. This means that they can just walk out of their front door, be on their streets again, and start stealing cars and terrorizing neighborhoods when they are doing whatever they are doing in the comforts of their own home. And one last thing, the federal government is, of course, in control of our ports. That means the places where organized crime is taking place, en route to federal ports, at federal ports, and of course, stolen cars waiting at federal ports to be shipped overseas. It is time for a new approach. It's time to start increasing mandatory jail time to deter the actual crime and not to have people keep doing it over and over again. 3 years for 3 thefts. And of course, ending the house arrests for car thieves, while also increasing sentences for gang-associated car thieves. Police, insurance association, community groups, and business organizations have been sounding the alarm bell about this for years. Our own constituents send us videos of this happening right in their front driveway, but their concerns have fallen on deaf ears of the Liberal government. And in the meantime, they still continue to stand with lawbreakers instead of law enforcement. Now, the calls have reached a breaking point. They're finally going to do something about it. But what is that something? Are they going to increase the punishments? No. Are they going to end catch and release policies that turn repeat violent offenders back in the streets? Are they going to crack down on the incompetence at Canadian ports that allow thousands of cars? Nope. They are going to have a summit. They're going to sit around the table, they're going to have a meeting, they're going to come out with a press release, they're going to take some photos, they're going to talk about it after 8 years where this problem has gotten out of control. They had a summit on food prices, Mr. Speaker. Food prices went up. They had a summit on housing. Housing prices have doubled. I can hardly wait to see the results for this summer. In fact, I think Canadians would beg them not to have a summit. That's right. Instead, start cracking down on the violent offenders, keep them behind bars when they recommit, stop the house arrests, and actually get serious about fighting crime in every single neighborhood across the country. Here, here, here.